welcome in. We have round number 2 today of the Le Mans Ultimate GT3 Championship here at Trackilicious on Tuesdays. I am Kuja Terekov, and we are gonna get things started any second here with the qualifying. Exciting round number 1 last week at the Fuji Raceway. Now today we head over to the US for round number 2 at Sebring International Raceway, built on the former Air Force Base on the Hendricks Army Airfield. And now we have cars rolling out on track in the qualifying session, so let's head down to the action and see what's going on. Yes, I am Kuja. Hello. Welcome in. We have 20 minutes of qualifying split into 2 parts. The first 10 minutes belongs to the odd-numbered drivers who are going out on track now, going through the bumpy final corner at Sunset Bend. Brian DeSantiago in the 777 BMW. Just showing exactly how bumpy it is out there. As they cross the line to begin their first lap, a bit of an odd layout with the pit lane at Sebring. During the qualifying, the drivers just get thrown out to start their first lap right away. Samuel Reich leads the pack in the number 13 Lexus. See if the drivers end up building out some gaps on this lap or whether they decide to do it on the next one. He's got the pair of Terrells behind him. First, it is Jake, followed by Zach. Jake in the 83, Zach in the number 69. Purple sector for the 83 of Jake Terrell in the early goings of this one. Ryan Eason in the 705 Corvette just going through the first sector now, getting things started. Bit of a warm-up required for these tires. So this first lap might not be the most representative that we will see just yet. As the BMWs of Terrell and Terrell with Santiago behind them, Samuel Reich in front, going to be completing their first laps here. Nobody building out a gap. Everybody just happy to continue on as is. Reich sets the first valid lap. It's a 2:05.18. Then goes Zach Terrell. Then Jake, then Brian DeSantiago. Jake Schaefbauer gets into the top 2 as Ryan Eason goes all the way to the top with a 2:04.66. Brett Samuelson gets his Mustang into the top 3, sitting about 6/10 behind provisional pole. Samuel Reich returns to the pits. Roy Butler in the 17 BMW finishing his first lap, just completing sector 2. Now down the lengthy back straight, approaching the final corner at Sunset Bend. We saw how bumpy it was just on the outlap. Now going through it at racing speed provides much more of a challenge for the stability of the car, as he just gets thrown around all the way throughout the quarter, but keeping it under control. And across the line now for the number 17. That'll put him into the top 2. Good lap from Roy Butler. What does the McLaren of Odstitev have? He comes up to the line. And all the way to the top, a 2:03.590 from the 73 McLaren. Terrell with a purple sector 1 and 2. Now with just the final corner to go. Looking to improve the time of that BMW, currently sitting in 9th. But now comes up to the line and completes an all-purple sector lap as he goes all the way to the top. Zach slots in behind to make it a BMW 1-2. Jake Schaefbauer improves his time to slide into the top 3. Ryan Eason improves into the 2:03s, will remain in a top 5 position. Dr. Porkchop, welcome back up to the line and across and up to 7th place. Goes the number 71, switching it up from the Aston Martin to the Porsche this season. But good to see Porkchop back in action. '73 Avodstityev back into the pits after going to the top, returning back out onto the track now. Needs about 0.6 of a second to get up into the top 3. Currently sitting on the back of the 2nd row in 4th place. With just under 4 minutes remaining in the odd numbered driver session. Just a couple of laps now for Vadik to get in those quick qualifying laps. With Terrell continuing to improve the pace. At the front, another purple sector 1 and 2. Can he cap it off with a purple sector 3 here? Going up right up to the wall. And does set a purple sector 3. It's a 2 minutes even .928 as Jake Terrell goes into the wall, crashing the 83. Zach improving his personal best. About 0.8 down and just running wide on the exit of 3, but still keeping it valid. Might have just slowed him down a touch. But nonetheless, he is still going in this one as Jake Terrell, Jake Schaefbauer, and Samuel Reich, the 3 in the pits so far with 2.5 minutes left in the odd-numbered driver session. Roy Butler's looking good through the first 2 sectors. Setting personal bests in both. Needs about 0.4 of a second to get up to Ryan Eason and get up onto the 3rd row. And then just a little bit more will find him ahead of Brett Samuelson into the top 5. What does Butler have coming out of the final corner? Is there enough of an improvement as he comes up to the line? There is an improvement, but needs another 1/10 to get ahead of Eason. And Butler off to the side of the road and back to the pits goes to number 17. The McLaren improves up to the 2nd row. Or no, he was sitting on the 2nd row. Just improves his personal best lap there to a 2:02.565 for Odstityev. Still with time for one more qualifying lap. Where will the 73 go? Can he climb into the top 3? As Brian DeSantiago crosses the line to complete his personal best, and it's a big improvement from the 777, goes all the way into the top 5. And crossing the line before the checkered flag for the odd number drivers. So he will have this lap to try and improve further. The 73 McLaren returning back to the pits. Eason joining those in the pits. Dr. Porkchop just crossing the line, couldn't get personal best on that go around. But not much of a gap between himself and Roy Butler, just a 10.5 in it to get up to 8th place for Dr. Porkchop. Zach Terrell looking to improve as much as he can, because we still have the even numbered drivers who are beginning their outlaps now. And Zach Terrell with the purple sector too. Good improvement there from the number 69. But is it going to be enough to challenge Jake at the front, sitting on provisional pole? Oh! And traffic getting in the way of Zach Terrell there, who is still on a flying lap, and that is the trouble around Sebring and how the pit lane is oriented. And now Brian DeSantiago trying to shuffle his way through the drivers making their way out onto the track. And Brian DeSantiago unable to improve from his position inside the top 5. We got a full onboard lap for Jace Wright. We'll ride trackside with him for now until he begins his push lap. Just ahead of him, it's the 84 of Casey Swanseger, who leads the even-numbered drivers out onto the track. A little confusing sometimes with the livery number not matching the number of the driver, but hey, we do our best. Off by 1 this time as Swanseger in the 85 Iron Dames livery. Jace Wright in the back just trying to get some tire temperature, weaving side to side as Swanseger with a bit of a moment there through the final corner. What will be the time set by the 84? Goes up to 12th place. And now Jace Wright crosses the line. So we'll ride on board with the number 24. Absolutely rapid through the first corner. And now into turns 2 and 3. Just waiting to get full power before this little straightaway, before the hairpin at turn 7. Very tight. Hairpin to the right. Nearly full lock for the Lamborghini. As he now gets back up to speed and into the braking zone of turn 10. It's still a pretty quick corner. Down to first, throwing it in. Back on the power. Bumpy right-hander. Down to second. Yeah, praying for a stable car. We saw a bit of instability already through the final corner from Swanseger. as Jace Wright crossing over the Sector 2 timing chart, getting a couple personal bests on the board. As now down the back straight, we just get to hear a V10 roar down. So just the final corner left for the 24. Oh, and very tight to the wall. May have just brushed it as Wright goes to the line and will split the Terrells at the top and go to second place. So we got Gabriel Sosa sliding into sixth place in his number 8 BMW. Couple drivers behind still waiting to complete their laps. Oh, that's Soto in the wall. Wallace now going through the final corner in the number 30 Corvette. Once again, just brushing the wall there. As Wallace gets into the top 10. Just a couple of hundredths behind Ryan Eason in the sister car, getting pushed now out of the top 10 with Diego Mateo getting his Porsche into 8th. What does Chris Jackson have in store for us in the number 10? Improving on his time in Sector 1. A little bit down on his time in Sector 2. But still with Sector 3 to go. Anything can happen here for Chris Jackson. Just a 10th behind George Elmer in the 22. And I believe those two last week had an absolutely monumental battle. Now through the final corner, Chris Jackson in the number 10. Finds the 10th and a bit more to get ahead of George Elmer to slide into 15th place. Gabriel Sosa with a big improvement in the number 8 BMW. He puts himself up to 4th now, with just 3/10 between himself and Zach Terrell. 2.5 minutes left in the session. Oh, and George Elmer returns to the pits. Paolo, welcome in, and welcome in, Raiders. Thank you so much for the raid. Hope you guys had a good stream. You join us with 2 minutes left in the qualifying for round number 2 of the GT3 Le Mans Ultimate Sprint Championship. With just 2 minutes left, a lot of drivers returning back to the pits. Just a handful left out on track. Gabriel Sosa just ahead of Swanseeger, setting a personal best, Sector 1 and 2. What were you streaming, Paolo? "90 seconds on the clock. Sosa very close to the wall on the inside. How close is he gonna get to the outside? Doesn't risk it one bit. Needs 3/10 to get to the top 3. Gains about a 10th on his personal best. And now just about over, just a little over a 10th. Gained more like 2/10 on his personal best there. Just a 10th and a bit left for the number 8 to try and get ahead of Terrell and move up to 3rd place. And Swanseeger does get a good time on the board here, gets up to 14th place. Pushes down Reich, Jackson, Elmer, and Xperia. Wallace returning out of the pits to try and get another lap here right at the end of the session. Checkered flag waving in 5 seconds time. As we have a trio of drivers here coming up to the line. It's Chris Jackson who leads them in the number 10, improving on his time in Sector 1, a little bit down in Sector 2. He's also returning to the pit, so 4th will be the best that the number 8 can start. Unless we have a big improvement from the drivers at the back here. Jackson with less than a 10th to get ahead of Samuel Reich. Casey Swanseeger needs 2.5 tenths to get to Dr. Porkchop. And Wallace needs... Oh, Wallace into the wall! He needed to avoid the wall is what he needed to do. Chris Jackson does gain the 10th he needs to get ahead of Reich. Casey Swanseeger will remain in 14th place, and that is the end of the 20-minute qualifying session. 40 minutes of racing coming up ahead. As Jacob Rivera Soto still has to complete his lap. Did cross the line before the checkered flag. So the 240. Oh, what happened there? He's gone.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
So 90 seconds to get the setups loaded and onto the track. From the back to the front, it is Jacob Rivera Soto starting from 19th place. The pair of BMWs at the back. Alongside him is the 250 of Dark Xperia. Next in 17th place is George Elmer in the number 22 Mustang. Ahead of him, Samuel Reich in the number 13 Lexus. In the top 15, we have Chris Jackson in the number 10 McLaren. And ahead of him, Casey Swanseeger in the 84 Lamborghini. Dr. Porkchop back for his first week of action in the 71 Porsche. He will line up next to Roy Butler in the number 17 BMW. Ryan Eason just outside the top 10 in the number 11. With Brett Samuelson being that final driver inside the top 10 in the number 29 Mustang. Up ahead of him, Brandon Wallace in the number 30 starts inside the top 10 in 9th. Diego Mateo in the 444 Porsche starts from 8th. Brian DeSantiago in the 777 BMW starts from 7th place. A lot of 7s on the board there for Brian. In 6th, Vadik Odstitsev next to Jake Schaefbauer. Sorry, Vadik in the 73 McLaren next to Jake Schaefbauer inside the top 5 in the 275 Porsche. Then the pair of BMWs make up the second row. Gabriel Sosa in 4th with Zach Terrell in 3rd. In 2nd place, Jace Wright in the number 24, looking to get another podium as he did last week. And Jake Terrell with pole position in the number 83 BMW as they now round the final corner We'll get 40 minutes of racing on the clock. And round number 2 will begin.
Green flag, green flag.
And we are off. A lot of shuffling at the back of the grid there, but at the front, it looks like it will remain Terrell at the front with Wright in second place. Gabriel Sosa looking to make up ground at the start, and he does for the moment. Terrell hugging that inside line, not giving it up. He's going to go to the inside of turn 3 on Stitev, nearly with a collision into the back end of the BMW, but able to avoid that, but in doing so, has to yield to the Porsche of Schaefbauer. Mateo alongside him, trying to get a run down into the hairpin. With Brian DeSantiago losing a position at the start. Oh, and there's Dr. Porkchop going deep on the brakes and into Diego Mateo. Not sure if Porkchop was hit and just unstable on the brakes there, going into the hairpin. Certainly trying to avoid all the cars that he could, but in doing so, tagging fellow Porsche driver Diego Mateo as they will drop to the back of the grid. Sosa's not making life easy for Terrell for that final spot on the podium. As we hear the cars roaring down the back straight. Chase Wright out just a little up the road. Top 2 building a gap over a second. Jake Terrell under pressure from Wright, sticking within half a second of the race leader. Brett Samuelson in the top 10, looking to make up ground further. He's got Butler up ahead of him in the number 17 BMW. Ryan Easton with a good start, started outside the top 10 and already up to 7th. He is 2.5 seconds back from the McLaren of Odstitev. Dark Xperia with a great start from the back of the grid as well, all the way up to 12th so far, and challenging Wallace for 11th place. But it's Jackson behind, who looks like he wants to get a good run. Brian DeSantiago falling back down the order as well, may have been involved in that incident at the hairpin. He's got George Elmer behind him trying to challenge for that position, as Xperia runs a little bit wide, forming up the train a little bit tighter. And Elmer does have a run out of the 16th corner. He's already alongside the BMW. Can he make up more ground? He's got Jackson in front of him, trying to get alongside the BMW of Xperia. They are nearly running 2x2 into the final corner, but it's George Elmer who's got the inside line. Brian DeSantiago in the BMW, not giving it up. He's got the outside, trying to find the grip, but George Elmer will get ahead in the 22 Mustang. And now, does he have the grip? He does have the speed to get alongside the McLaren and challenge into turn one. It's going to be 2 cars in 2 corners for George Elmer. If he can find the speed on acceleration, he has the inside for the next braking zone, and he is going to make that stick 2 places in the span of a couple of corners. And there is Samuel Reich off in the Lexus up ahead and off into the grass, trying to get the car back into the correct direction. Xperia goes off. The Mustang of Samuelson off as well. And just like that, George Elmer finds himself in the top 10. Not sure if there was contact between the BMW of Xperia and Samuelson. Both of them going a little bit slowly on the exit of turn 6. And it's the BMW with a late move and a little bit of contact with Chris Jackson. And they both go off into the grass. Swanseeger, De Santiago, they both go through in this battle. Oh, and more drama behind. I'm not sure who that was, but there was a car going off back. Oh, and it's Chris Jackson in the number 10 McLaren. And Elmer's not done yet. He wants more. He smells 9th place up ahead. That's Brandon Wallace in the Corvette. And just thinks the better of it going into the final corner. But out of the final corner, it is Terrell, who has lost a few places here. Ryan Eason challenging Zach Terrell, but Terrell will stay ahead. Terrell running in the podium positions next to Sosa. Not sure if there was contact between the two of them, but nevertheless, Terrell dropping back a couple of places behind Schaefbauer as well. The gap to the 4th place Porsche, 5.5 seconds. Oh, and contact from behind. Ryan Eason can't get the Corvette slowed down in time, and just going into the back of the 69 BMW. And what was a battle for the top 10 has now turned into a battle for 12th place between Elmer and Wallace, with Wallace in the 30 up in 12th and Elmer dropping back to 13th. And I believe that was Dr. Porkchop sideways a little bit further back. That was Dr. Porkchop in the number 71. And there appears to be a good bit of damage to that Porsche. Jake Schaefbauer getting close to Gabriel Sosa for challenging the BMW for a spot on the podium. Slightly deep into the final corner we saw there for the 275, and a little bit deep again there into turn 1. Oh, was there a problem for Terrell? That was Jake Terrell going slowly. The race leader. Slowly out of turn 1. The 83 drops back to 4th. Is there a bit of rain coming down now as the wipers are active? Oh, there certainly is. If we ride on board with Jake Terrell, the rain beginning to come down. Oh yeah, and there's Odstitsev dropping back to 14th, unfortunately. The rain getting him, and it seems to be catching out a good handful of drivers here as well. Wright will take the race lead in the number 24 Lamborghini. Sosa moves up to second. This is now the battle for third between Jake Schaefbauer and Jake Terrell. As Schaefbauer goes a touch deep, Terrell goes into the pits. Jackson was in the pits earlier. As we now have a handful of drivers returning to the pits and getting some fresh tires fitted onto their cars. Some wet tires, that is, onto their cars. In and out just like that. Terrell will come out behind the McLaren of Chris Jackson. Oh no, but Chris Jackson is a lap behind, having pitted previously. And I think there was some damage to repair as well on Chris Jackson's car. This is not a battle for position. As now Ryan Eason, Wallace, Samuelson, and Swanseeger all return to the pits. Jace Wright remains out on track. He is happy to keep going in the 24 Lamborghini. And still not diving into the pits on this lap. He is happy to keep going. Is this just going to be a quick shower as well? Is Jace just trying to stick it out there and just hoping that the weather will dry out? Jacob Rivera Soto doing a good job, starting from the back of the grid, running in the top 10 as it stands. He sits in 9th place. The gaps opening up between the drivers in these wet conditions. Brian DeSantiago trying to close in on George Elmer. Hear the Mustang roaring up ahead. This is for a spot in the top 5. The gap is 2 seconds between the 777 BMW. Whoa, you getting a little bit slippery. With Jake Terrell behind, closing in on the wet tires as well. Brian DeSantiago, very twitchy out of the slow corners. Jake Terrell, a lot more confidence on the gas pedal with the wet tires underneath him. And Brian DeSantiago going just a touch deep into the braking zone of turn 10, just allowing the 83 to slip through. Santiago once again, bit of a drift on the corner exits. Oh, and behind Zach Terrell, spinning into the wall. And he does have the wet tires equipped. So even with the treaded wet tires, conditions are proving to be quite slippery. Jake Terrell already catching up to Elmer to get a spot back in the top 5. Elmer opening up the inside. Allows the BMW to go through. Now Terrell with a 24-second gap to get up to 4th place. That's Roy Butler in the number 17. He's certainly keeping Schaefbauer honest. Sitting about 1.5 seconds behind from a podium sitting Porsche. Schaefbauer looks to be struggling out there. I think it's dry tires for the Porsche, wet tires for the BMW. Porsche able to keep its back end under control. We saw the 777 BMW getting a little bit slidey on the corner exits. The 275 able to manage it. Especially important with the 17 BMW pressing behind. And he's trying to slip through the inside. But once again, on the power, the 275 able to escape. Certainly a varying degree of strategies here. It looks like some drivers started on the wets, some on the dries, some taking pit stops to go onto the wets. There we can see the number of pit stops and who's come in. Terrell leading the charge of those who has. Jake Terrell, that is. Zach Terrell pitting as well, but he is in 8th place. And no pit stops from the top 4. So Roy Butler started on the wet tires. Perhaps knowing this rain was coming, and with the nature of the sprint race, had to gamble a little bit at the beginning. Cost himself a little bit of time, but certainly going to make it up with the wet conditions out there. We can see the progress of the grid. Jace Wright up a place from where he started on the front row. Sosa up 2, same with Schaefbauer. Butler, a big mover, up 8 places. Starting outside the top 10, currently running up in 4th, and certainly within grasp of a podium position. Jake Terrell down 4 from where he started on provisional pole, but he did come into the pits to take wet tires. Elmer, also a big mover, up 11 places, started from 17th, up in 6th. No pit stops for the Mustang as well. Not quite sure what tires Elmer is running. We'll take a look in a second. Brian DeSantiago maintaining that 7th position that he started in. Terrell, Zach Terrell, that is, down 5, but also having to take a pit stop. Jacob Rivera Soto up 10 after starting from the back of the grid, currently sitting inside the top 10. And from the top 10 on, all of those drivers have come into the pits. Wallace, Samuelson, and Eason down a place from where they started. Porkchop and Swanseeger remain where they started, and Diego Mateo down 7 places in the 444 Porsche. Gap maintaining around that 1.5 to 2 second mark between the 275 Porsche on dry tires, driven by Jake Schaefbauer, and the number 17 BMW on wets in the hands of Roy Butler. Rivera and Eason into the pit lane. We have unfortunately lost a handful of drivers. Chris Jackson, Samuel Reich, Vadik Odstitsev, Dark Xperia, and Alan Pena out of this one, with a little under halfway to go. 18 minutes remain for the drivers to get their positions established for round number 2. Brett Samuelson chasing Wallace for 9th place in the battle of the 2 American manufacturers here on home soil at Sebring. A 29 Mustang chasing the number 30 Corvette, and a slide out of the hairpin will cost Brett Samuelson the time that he was ever so fortunate to have gained on the Corvette earlier on. That gap opening up just over 2 seconds now. Wallace breathing a quick sigh of relief, but certainly still under pressure from the Mustang behind. Brian DeSantiago and George Elmer getting close on track once again as Wallace goes to the pits. That'll give Samuelson that 9th place position, and perhaps a couple of drivers will benefit from that as well. Brian DeSantiago keeping close to George Elmer for 6th place, staying within 2 seconds of the Mustang up ahead. Jace Wright pulling a big gap over Sosa. 21 seconds is the lead for the number 24 Lamborghini. Right on board and see if it's still raining. It doesn't look like it. So it looks like the rain has stopped. but the conditions out on the track could still be a little bit damp. So perhaps a couple of drivers swapping onto the wets and realizing that was the wrong tire to be on, going back to the dry tires. As Dr. Porkchop will now inherit that final spot in the top 10, with Wallace returning back out on track in 11th. Yeah, certainly a lot of BMWs this season. What car would you pick, Dave, if you were to enter the series? Second Lamborghini of Casey Swansteger. A little bit under pressure from the Corvette behind of Ryan Eason, getting within a second and a half. Ferrari, the Mustang are solid choices. Can't beat the sound of that V8. And here is Ryan Eason trying to line up the move down the inside. Maybe a little bit of side-by-side contact on the exit of Sunset Bend. But nonetheless, the Corvette will just ever so slightly eke ahead before turn 1 and gets ahead of Casey Swansteger, but he will certainly not give that up easy. Will try to stay as close as he can to the Corvette. That's fair. You got to carry the spite from owning a BMW into real life, as Zach Terrell back into the pit lane in the number 69. And back onto the dry tires. So now with the track drying up, Roy Butler unable to stay close to Schaefbauer and challenge for that final spot on the podium. And now Schaefbauer closing in on Sosa, getting within 2 seconds to challenge the BMW for second place. After the pit stop, Samuelson behind Terrell. Terrell just getting those tires back up to racing pressure and temperature, with Samuelson on the wet tires. However, might not be the right tire to be on for the Mustang at this time. Has a decent gap to Dr. Porkchop behind if he wants to try and pit and get past the Porsche later on. But he's certainly staying close to the BMW. The race leader in that Lamborghini behind Jace Wright, nearly lapping all the way up to 9th place. Monumental pace from Wright out front, and extending the gap over Sosa now to 25 seconds. Just under 10 minutes left in round number 2 around Sebring. Gap's just closing in, opening up here and there. Gabriel Sosa, Jake Schaefbauer, separated by about 2.5 seconds, as low as 1.5 at points. It's the same story with George Elmer and Brian DeSantiago, battling for 6th and 7th place. Now the pair of Corvettes going into battle. Ryan Eason trying to get ahead of Wallace. As I believe that's the BMW of Butler getting out of the way of the battle on the wet tires. Eason trying to go through at Le Mans, but not room there at turn 16. We'll have to try and make it stick into the final corner, tucking into the slipstream of the number 30 up ahead. Has the speed he wants, pulls alongside, takes the inside line away from the number 30. Can he get him on the brakes? The 705 goes a little bit deep. The 30 sweeps back into the inside, but the 705 trying to keep the grip around the outside. Carries a bit too much speed, can't keep the grip, and going into the wall. Lucky to avoid a lot of damage there to the 705. He will continue on in pursuit of the 30. And Ryan Eason trying to go down that inside line, no room given. But Wallace deep on the brakes in the hairpin, goes to the grass, and Ryan Eason will take 11th place. And a bit behind these two, Roy Butler and Jake Terrell in the battle of the two BMWs for 4th and 5th place. Both on the wet tires, but Jake Terrell on slightly newer ones. Looking to do what Eason did before and just force a mistake out of the driver in front, but Roy Butler looks to be confident on the brakes. Now for him, just has the Corvette in front. Terrell with a double slipstream. Getting closer and closer to the 17, but just not enough of a speed advantage for Jake Terrell to try and go through there. But the inside line opens up on the exit, and Jake Terrell will try and get the move done into turn 1. He's going to have to go the long way around the outside with Roy Butler maintaining his BMW down the inside into turn 1 we go. The 83 will sweep around and carry the speed and will take 4th. This is the closest we've seen the gap between the top 2, or the top 3, excuse me, in a while. Less than a second between Sosa and Schaefbauer. Sosa in the number 8 BMW. Starting from the front 2 rows. Always an advantage. It was looking pretty racy earlier on. Oh, and that's the 240 of Rivera in the wall. And it looked like there was a wheel off the car. Yeah, back to the pits he goes. Both Sosa and Schaefer on the dry tires, and neither of them stopping during the rain. They will continue on. And Schaefbauer able to close that gap in, but just not close enough to really try and send a move into any of these heavy braking zones just yet. But still looking large in the mirror of Sosa. And up ahead, Jace Wright. He's starting his final lap of the race. After he crosses the line here. So just one more 3.5 mile tour of the Sebring International Raceway for the race leader to bring it on home. Will the order remain the same on the podium? Will Sosa stay ahead of Schaefbauer with just one lap remaining? Schaefbauer running out of opportunities to try and get past the BMW for second place. Roy Butler flashing the lights, not sure if he had a moment there, because he has lost a top 5 position to George Elmer. There is the Mustang escaping off in the distance. And the gap opening up between the BMW and the Porsche. However, Swanseeger here is in an interesting position here. He's got the BMW in front of him. Oh, and there's Wallace that goes spinning out of the final corner. That was the challenger that Swanseeger was after. And just like that, he will take 12th place away from the Corvette. Not sure if there was any contact between the two of them. It didn't really look like it. But on the final moments, the Corvette of Wallace goes spinning and loses 12th place to the Lamborghini of Swanseeger. As one Lamborghini gains 12th, one Lamborghini will cross the line to take the checkered flag and take the top step of the podium. Jace Wright improving from his second place position last week to take the top spot in the number 24 Lamborghini, and that will give him the championship lead going into round number 3. Sosa ahead of Schaefbauer. He will hang on to second place and join Wright on the podium. Schaefbauer up to third place, also getting a podium finish in the 275 Porsche. Samuelson taking the checkered flag in 8th place. In 9th is Zach Terrell. Yeah, it was a big gap. 30 seconds was quite a mighty drive from Wright. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened to Jake Terrell had he not done the double pit stop strategy, but he nonetheless a good recovery to get up to 4th place and finish inside the top 5. Pork chop across the line to get a top 10 finish. Ryan Eason will finish in 11th, and George Elmer with a top 5 finish after starting from 17th, I believe. The 22 Mustang getting all the way up into the top 5. Wallace takes the checkered flag in 13th place. Diego Mateo in 14th. Unfortunately losing Jacob Rivera Soto, Chris Jackson, Samuel Reich, Vadik Odsitsev, Dark Xperia, and Alan Pena from this one. Jace Wright, your race winner. Gabriel Sosa, 2nd place. Jake Schaefbauer rounds out the podium. Jake Terrell in 4th. George Elmer in 5th. Roy Butler, 6th. Brian DeSantiago, 7th. Brett Samuelson, 8th place. Zach Terrell in 9th. Dr. Porkchop rounds out your top 10. Then you have Ryan Eason in 11th. Casey Swanseeger in 12th. Brandon Wallace, 13th. And Diego Mateo rounds out the finishers in 14th place. The 777 in 7th. Dreams do come true. I agree, Brian. A fun fact. Let's see. What can we do? A fun fact about Sebring that isn't kind of history related. I don't have a whole lot in my notes about Sebring. We'll take it back to our studio. As I continue to ponder that fun fact, we invite our top 3 to join us in the green room for a quick chat. How your guys' race went on. But if not, that is totally all okay as well. Apologies for missing that fun fact earlier. Thank you for the follow. Thanks, Louie. Hope you enjoy the race. How to join SimGrid is the place to get signed up. ! SimGrid will get you a link to the Trackilicious SimGrid, and then from there you find the Tuesday series and get signed up and registered for that. No problem. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Bit of a wild one with the weather changing halfway through, some drops of rain. Yeah, there were a couple of different calls, some starting on the wet tires from the beginning, some going on the dries from the beginning, and yeah, all sorts of different changing. It's free car selection. Pick whatever car you like, but as soon as you pick a car, you're locked in for the season, and if you switch cars, you will lose all the championship points that you have acquired. So if you want, you can switch it up every race. If not, pick one car and stick to it. And yeah, you can use whatever setups you want as well. It's not like a fixed setup thing or anything also. So yeah, excited to see you on the grid, Louis. Yeah, it's good amount of fun for sure. It is looking like, do I have to join Discord? Yes, you have to join the Discord and get the league role in that. Yeah, I haven't gotten too much in depth into the weather of LMU. I'm not sure how far in advance you can like see how the weather will change. But yeah, it would certainly be a difficult strategy call to make there. With how those conditions were changing. But yeah, I'm not sure if maybe there's some sort of on-screen display selection that allows you to change which or show what like the weather kind of radar thing is predicting like you do in ACC. But that's going to be it for us this week. Next week we're going to have round number 3 starting up, going around Laguna Seca, I do believe, the new DLC expansions. So that'll be a lot of fun to see some racing action around Laguna Seca, and the ACC seasons will be starting back up again next week as well, with the rookies in the GT4s on Mondays doing their 2 20-minute race format, and the Wednesday multi-class returns next week as well. Signups for those are on SimGrid. Oh, and Wednesday, 75-minute races, multi-class with the GT3s and the GT4s. There is also the Sunday Hypercar League, so get signed up for that, running on Sunday mornings. Should be a lot of fun, doing a pretty similar format to this one, I believe, having some sprint races in the hypercars though, but just on Sundays. So should be good fun. Hope to see you on the next streams, but for now, stick around for the raid of Jay doing some iRacing. He's got a pretty cool setup. Tell him Trackilicious sent you. Spread the love from one sim racing community to the next. Hope you all enjoyed the stream. Hope to catch you next time. Until then, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Thanks for watching. See you next time.